Agriculture needs to adapt better to climate change. The Indian farming ecosystem has seen a big change. In recent years, the acceptance of climate change as an imminent concern rather than an issue that needs to be tackled in the medium term. Policymakers, bankers, researchers, weather experts, and seed companies are of the view that cropping techniques, patterns, and technologies must adapt rapidly. At the recently concluded Business Light Agri and Commodity Summit, it was agreed that natural farming can insulate India's crops against increasingly frequent weather events. If the Indian Council for Agriculture Research is working on drought and flood resistant varieties, NABARD is promoting new financial mechanisms such as Agri Fund and the Carbon Fund and working in tandem with states and multilateral agencies. In terms of delivery of climate proofing solutions, primary agricultural credit societies have been identified as the nodal institutions. The center plans to expand their role beyond giving credit. However, the drive to set up 2 lakh multipurpose cooperators would require the cooperation of the states. There is a growing recognition of the potential of earning carbon credits through climate smart practices, although the processes need to be firmed up so that the genuine farmers rather than dubious consultants and experts with global links benefit. Funding for such practices must be accompanied by clear-cut conditions so that back-end inputs too are green. However, there are gaps in the recurrent thrust. India's farm research systems are primarily geared towards increasing yields through resource-intensive hybrid varieties. It is not clear whether varieties that combine stress resistance and yield improvement are in the pipeline. More efforts should be made toward to select natural varieties for their resilient traits. A research focus on yields alone may prove limiting in the long run as the prospect of crop damage assumes more serious proportions. The Prime Minister's office has called for reforms in the ICAR system. While food grain output has increased, despite vagaries of the weather, it is better to be prepared for eventualities. It is also important to realize the impact of harsh weather on crops is pronounced in the rain-fed heartland, which constitutes 50% of the cultivated area, as against irrigated regions. Climate proofing policies should focus on the unirrigated regions, in particular, multi-cropping as well as promotion of millets on typically small patches of land can protect outer output and incomes. Research has shown that monocropping in rain-fed regions has reduced return to farmers while exposing them to uncertainty. There needs to be more conceptual clarity on the entire gamut of the processes that encompass sustainable farming. The allocation towards Prime Minister Paramparagat Krishi Vikas Yojana, which has seen just over 2,000 crore being spent over about 4 years, can be increased alongside reforms in research and market linkages. We must embrace frontier technologies quickly. India is at a tipping point. Our ambition is to become a developed nation by 2047 calls for transformative, all encompassing change. Incremental progress will no longer suffice in a world evolving at a breakneck speed. Achieving the goal demands exponential transformation across every sector of our society and economy. In any other era, this ambition might have been dismissed as unattainable, but today we find ourselves at the threshold of a technological revolution powered by frontier technologies, an era where innovation is breaking barriers and redefining the limits of what is possible. Frontier technologies exist at the dynamic intersection of science and technology, driving in transformative impacts across sectors in ways previously unimaginable. Consider the example of 2024 Nobel Prize in Chemistry awarded for advancements powered by artificial intelligence. It underscores how AI breakthroughs are reshaping landscape of innovation. The Nobel was given to the founders of AlphaFold, an AI tool that solved the structure of over 200 million proteins in a single year, a feat that would have taken humanity billions of years using traditional method. The groundbreaking achievement is fast-tracking drug discovery for diseases like cancer and Alzheimer's, moving us closer to affordable personalized medicine. Imagine the impact of deploying such technologies across India's vast healthcare ecosystem, transforming diagnostics, improving outcomes, and making quality care accessible to every citizen, even in the most remote areas. In agriculture, India faces twin pressures of population growth and climate change, which demand urgent innovation. Enter techniques like boosted breeding, a revolutionary bioengineering technique that enables plants to inherit 100% of their parents' genetic material without any DNA editing. This innovation boosts crop yields and creates climate resilient varieties, addressing food security challenges head on. Scaling such technologies could position India as the food basket to the world, achieving self-sufficiency while leading the charge in sustainable agriculture. India's renewable energy ambitions are equally bold. Frontier technologies are redefining the energy landscape with the integration of solar, wind, and green hydrogen leading the charge. Green hydrogen, for example, is already decarbonizing industries such as steel and shipping while providing a robust energy storage solution. As India accelerates production, it stands on the cusp of becoming global hub for renewable energy innovation, driving both economic growth and environmental resilience. These technologies promises solutions to humanity's most pressing challenges, climate change, food shortages, and equitable health delivery. However, the rise of these technologies brings with it profound ethical and regulatory challenges, from potential misuse to the disruption of existing ecosystems. The risks are real and must not be ignored. To harness the full potential of frontier technologies, India must act decisively and early. Early adoption of frontier technologies allows us to shape standards and markets, maximize economic impact, address risk proactively. Technologies like AI and quantum computing carry risk from job displacement to national security threats. Acting early allows us to build robust frameworks that mitigate these risks. We must lead with a framework that is safe, inclusive, and responsible. One that balances opportunity with caution, and that the main agenda is Niti Frontier Tech Hub. Our goal is to partner with experts across industry, academia, and government. The road to 2047 begins today. By 2035, the midpoint is our journey. We must have a clear vision for how frontier technologies will shape critical sectors. This requires investing in R&D. India's current R&D spending is 0.7% of GDP, just below global benchmarks. Building partnerships, collaborating with industry, academia, and global leaders, fostering a thriving innovation ecosystem. India can make a mark in the global graphene market. In February 24, the global materials science community was stunned by groundbreaking achievement when US-China research team successfully synthesized a functional semiconductor from graphene. This milestone promises to revolutionize industries such as electronics, energy storage, and medical devices, and with applications that could reshape computing and numerous other technological sectors. With its remarkable properties, strength, conductivity, and flexibility, graphene has emerged as a game changer worldwide, offering immense possibilities for innovation. China has strategically positioned itself as the global leader in the graphene market, investing heavily in research, infrastructure, and production. By 2023, China controlled over 70% of the global graphene production, contributing significantly to the sector's rapid growth. As projections show market reaching to $6.25 billion by 2031, China's leadership is evident through its comprehensive national policies, such as Made in China 2025, which has fueled significant advancements in graphene technology. However, China's dominance also underscores the importance of securing access to critical resources like graphite. For countries like India, this represents both a challenge and an opportunity, particularly as demand for graphene is growing in industries like electronics, aerospace, and energy. India is making strides in the field of graphene with growing number of institutions at the Center for Nanoscience and Engineering at IISc Bangalore. Researchers have developed chemical vapor deposition system that produces 20 2D materials including graphene. Tata Steel also takes significant step by growing graphene from steel surfaces. Additionally, IIT Roorkee incubated Log9 has patented graphene-based ultracapacitors, demonstrating its promise in energy storage applications. These efforts highlight India's growing presence in sectors such as automotive, electronics, construction, and defense, despite ongoing challenges like limited R&D funding and fragmented infrastructure. India's graphene market is thriving and is expected to grow at a compound annual growth rate (CAGR) of 20.1% between 2017 and 2027. This growth is driven by expanding demand for graphene across various industries, particularly electronics, which hold largest market share. However, while progress has been notable, patent filings related to graphene are in India are still limited, with the majority of applications coming from foreign companies such as Lockheed, BASF, PPG Industries, along with few domestic institutions like IITM and ARCI. A significant achievement has been granting of a patent to PCBI for its innovation in graphene-based rubber compounds. So India is at the cusp of an exciting opportunity in the global graphene market, but not to fully capitalize on its momentum, a strategic approach is needed. Establishing dedicated graphene industrial parks, boosting R&D funding, and fostering international collaborations with leading graphene innovators are key steps. A potential collaboration with National Graphene Institute at the University of Manchester could further accelerate India's research capabilities. Additionally, forming national forums and National Graphene Industry Alliance could also be instrumental in advocating for industry needs and providing incentives for industries to adopt graphene based solutions. Workshops and educational initiatives aimed at raising awareness about unique benefits of graphene will play a pivotal role in spurring demand. These initiatives will not only increase production capacity uh, of the industry but also create a sustainable growth oriented ecosystem around graphene. Finding joy in one's pursuit, a framework for balanced, meaningful life, Play to Potential by Deepak Jairam Penguin. Often people set out on their career journey, their focus remains firmly outward. Success is measured by promotions, pay raises, and steps they have to climb on the corporate ladder. Comparisons with peers and benchmarks of external achievements dominate the narrative. Play to Potential, Lead a Full Life, Become the Best You brings a wealth of experience to these questions. An alumnus of IIT Madras, IIM Ahmedabad, and London Business School, Jairam has built an impressive career with stints at KPMG, McKinsey, and Egon Zehnder, making it big in America amidst odds. The book traces the lives of ordinary Indians who overcame many challenges to achieve great heights in the US. It's amazing. Indian descent Americans are taking over the country. You guys are incredible. President Joe Biden told Swati Mohan, the lead scientist of NASA, in 2021. In 1970, when Arthur Ahmed came to America, there were about 51,000 Indians, and in 2020, they were an estimated $4.4 million, many of whom were naturalized American citizens or born in that country. In 2023, Indians surpassed Chinese as the second largest immigrant group after the Mexicans. Indian genius paints a remarkable picture of uh, individuals. Chandrika Krishnamurti, later Tandon, speaks of the expectations of a girl child, the reluctance of elder to see her going to a co-educational institutions like Madras Christian College. I faced two problems. It was co-ed and an hour away. I had to go on hunger strike to overcome the family's objections. Women's safety, how sensitive are policemen? The recent report of a sexual attack on a women student at Anna University, Chennai, comes as a shock. The offender has no doubt been identified and arrested. The fact that women could be assaulted in the heart of a city is a blot of Chennai's reputation as being safe for women. Even as this is a single incident, it raises several questions about the efficiency of police. The record of law and order agencies the world over in such matter is a mixed bag. The impression among opinion makers is that there is an air of indifference among police leaders when it comes to safeguarding women. More visibility is needed. There are two aspects to this situation. Our cities and towns need extra police visibility in important thoroughfares. This is more easily said than done. In view of increasing demands on law and order wings of police, women protection tasks are sidelines. Merely enlarging police forces of no avail unless their use is more imaginative and rational. While the police could be more alert during late hours, women on their part should reflect on how to organize their routines so as to escape antisocial elements. Is this the bitter battle to gain power in Delhi? The outcome will have national implications, hence, the big push on the ground by three national parties. Boiling seas and scorched land record high sea temperatures in 2024 show a gap between climate threat and action. Looming threat of China-US standoff. President Joe Biden and Xi Jinping managed to keep United States-China tensions contained in 2024, but when Donald Trump strides back into the White House later this month, he will break this fragile stability, driving an unmanaged decoupling of the world's most geopolitical relationship and increasing the risk of global economic disruption and crisis. Trump will begin his second term as US President by announcing new tariffs on Chinese goods in order to force a new economic agreement on Beijing. These new tariffs will reach the 60% blanket tariff level he threatened during the election campaign. China's leaders, meanwhile, will respond more forcefully and offer fewer concessions than during Trump's first term, despite continuous weakening of China's economy. They fear that conciliatory approach will stoke already rising public anger in China by appearing to accept a national humiliation. If their more constructive approach towards the US of past year only brought them return of tariff man Trump and more of his threats, they might well wonder why stick to pragmatic path. Trump's threats are late in the long line of aggressions from Washington that confirm the suspicion of China's rise as a great power. China, Trump security team will add more Chinese companies so that entity list, making licensing more difficult to them. Biden administration also lead on restricting Trump will also follow the Biden administration's lead on restricting the export of advanced computer chips to Chinese tech firms. Beijing has already shown a willingness to retaliate against These trade and investment measures by restricting the export of critical minerals and technology used to process them. Critical minerals are vital to the production of broad range of modern technologies, including electric car motors, computers, and some products Washington considers essential for U.S. national security. Though not risk of China's invasion of Though not a risk of China's invasion in 2025, disputes over Taiwan will also make US-Chinese relationships more toxic this year. Though Trump himself appears uninterested in Taiwan, the more hawkish members of his new team, including incoming Secretary Marco Rubio and National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, will push not only for closer US ties with Taipei but also a more explicit US guarantee for Taiwan's security. For now, China's leaders believe that pressure tactics that have kept Taiwan's nationalist President William Lai in check, and they are probably right. Taiwan's economy remains strong and he doesn't need to provoke China to bolster his public popularity. But if Beijing perceives that Taipei has made substantial move towards greater de facto independence, or if Washington crosses any China's other red lines, if America's China chief's diplomat visits island or US naval vessels anchor in Taiwanese port, China must escalate militarily via blockade on the seizure of one of the Taiwan's outer islands. These risks will grow as Taiwan's 28 elections approach and Beijing ramps up pressure to prevent another William Lai victory. Neither China nor US wants a crisis in 2025. Xi and Trump both hope to prioritize domestic policy. This year, Xi faces serious economic challenges, growing social stability concerns, and military leadership in disarray. Trump's wants to avoid any problem that might sink in the US stock market and hopes to cut deals that boost confidence in his leadership. With unified government, and consolidated control of his party, Trump is in better position than Biden ever was to ensure that Washington speaks with a single voice, but there is no foundation for an agreement that strengthens broader US-China relations. Beijing can offer to buy more of America's agricultural products and energy exports. It can make life easier for US companies that want to do business in China. Xi can make Xi can greenlight more Chinese investment in the US and even play a more active supportive role in getting a ceasefire in Ukraine. But these constructive gestures won't satisfy Trump and the hawks in his administration who believe that China's rise is bad for the US. Trump's determination to tighten the pressure on China and its tumbling economy will push China's leaders in the opposite direction. Two wildcards hang over US China ties this year: Trump himself and the new favorite advisor, Elon Musk. Trump could try to build a better personal relationship with President Xi. Musk's many commercial interests in China could make himself useful go between. But the forces pushing the US and China in opposite directions are much bigger than either of these possibilities, and neither is likely to determine the outcome. The efforts of coming breakdown in relations will be felt all over the world. Most countries have no interest in a new Cold War, making one unlikely in the near term. But key US allies and trade partners such as Japan, South Korea, Mexico, and European Union may increasingly be forced to choose sides. Neither China nor the US wants a costly confrontation in 2025, but early signals from both Beijing and Washington shows us conflict is becoming harder to avoid. In Afghanistan, an entire generation of girls will be robbed of its future. As Muslim leaders, now is the time to raise your voice. Leaders of good conduct and good conscience. Time running out for MBA in Maharashtra. New US sanctions will affect Russia's supply of Russian energy. In a parting shot, the departing administration of United States President Joe Biden has extended the scope of its sanction on the Russian energy sector. The new measures announced last week go further than existing sanctions and have the potential to create additional volatility in the energy ecosystem that is already considered under considerable pressure. This decision coming as it does couple of weeks before the start of Donald Trump's presidency throws a political challenge to the new administration, which is known for its pro-Russian bias. Mr. Trump will therefore be put to test on its proximity to Russia, and how he responds to this challenge remains to be seen. But the collateral implications for energy dependent Europe and India will be substantial, and policymakers will have to deal with these eventualities. New aggressive sanctions span multiple domains. Two large producers and exporters have been brought into the sanctions net. Suru, the million barrels that these two shipped in the last year together represent almost a third of current Russian maritime export and are a significant proportion of the current supply in the market. In addition, sanctions against specific oil tanker ships have been set up, including that those that shuttle oil and gas across Arctic Ocean to the main Russian regional ports at Murmansk. The medium-term impact of these sanctions is unclear. Certainly, it will raise cost since transshipments of various sorts may be required. Another arrow in the US quiver is new restrictions on maritime insurance providers in Russia. In particular, new restrictions on maritime insurance providers in Russia. Sanctions against specific oil tanker ships have been set up, including those that shuttle oil and gas between across the Arctic Ocean. The former is a major supplier to insurance to cargo destined for India, but in particular, and its removal from the market may lead to delays in existing shipments. India will have to come up with a suitable set of responses to these new measures that are not too disruptive. This is urgent because safety of the shadow fleet that ships Russian oil has also been a problem. Sanctions against specific ships render them difficult to repair and make accidents more likely. And the absence of insurance means that accidents, when they occur, create major losses. To an extent, these additional measures were anticipated, though their aggressive nature is something of a surprise. Indian purchasers of fossil land, alongside their counterparts in China, have in fact stepped up on their dependence on Gulf and Atlantic sources for oil in the past weeks. Indian state owned oil refineries have reportedly snapped up contacts for February delivery of 6 million barrels of crude oil from the Gulf in particular, partly as a response to the lack of availability of Russian crude oil on the spot market. 2 million barrels have also been secured. According to reports of West Texas Intermediate, it is likely that it will take a few more weeks or months from the Russian sources of crude oil to work out modalities for supply that will go around the new set of sanctions. Until then, India will be exposed to some volatility in supply and prices. Hail the freelance economy. More professions are going freelance. Some early clues about what changes could happen are available from current news reports. For example, as of 2024, approximately 38% of US workforce, equating to over 64 million individuals, are engaged in freelance work. And the projection suggests that freelance could comprise 50% of the US workforce by 2027. Digging deeper, this trend is not because employers are downsizing their full time office employees, but appears to be something employees themselves are pushing to do. Further digging reveals that 52% of Gen Z workers and 44% of millennials are engaged in freelancing. So it is the younger lot who are taking up the freelance work, Upwork.com, and I thought it must be the ones of low quality education, people who have jumped around one paid job to another, that must be making of these freelancers. But again, reports say that over half of freelancers possess postgraduate degree, indicating a trend towards higher educational attainments among independent workers. While a substantial And if you think all this is just in the United States and does not affect India, Niti Aayog report the country's gig worker force will grow to 23.5 million by 2029-30, up to 7 point, from up to 7.7 million in 2020-21. While a substantial portion of India's freelancers work in IT-related fields, offering services such as web development, app development, software engineering, and cybersecurity, freelancers also dominate content writing, copywriting, search engine optimization, social media engagement, and digital marketing roles. Online tutoring, curriculum development, and content creator are growing freelance sectors. On further reflection, it occurred to me that even in India, some professions have long time had a place for freelancers, except that the term used so far has been private practitioners. For instance, for decades, a sizable proportion of medical doctors, lawyers, and chartered accountants have been in private practice, and that was seen to be perfectly respectable choice to make for middle class people. Shakeout in small caps. Threat or opportunity, India needs to be prepared for AI driven changes. As artificial intelligence make inroads, Microsoft founder Bill Gates believes that employment opportunities in only three sectors are likely to remain robust in the face of AI onslaught. A recent study by Bloomberg Intelligence indicates that jobs in banking and finance are among the most vulnerable to AI induction. This is in line with report by Citi in June, which estimated AI is likely to displace more jobs in the banking industry than any other sector. It is estimated that 54% jobs in banking had high potential to be automated. Recent trends in software also indicate that lots of jobs in the sector may be at risk. Mr. Gate believes that energy, biosciences, and AI system development are three sectors that require expertise and adaptability. AI cannot easily replicate. More broadly, Mr. Gate thinks in future humans will only be deployed in roles that require creativity and critical thinking. Digital literacy and program skills will be critical across industries. Thus, it will be crucial to rework educational systems to ensure populations acquire those skill sets as early as possible. The Bloomberg surveys CTOs in the finance domain. The conclusions are a net 3% cut in workforce is likely over the next 3 to 5 years, with many CTOs expecting more drastic reductions. Nearly a quarter of 93 respondents predict steeper decline between 5 to 10% of the total headcount. Companies surveyed giants like Citigroup, JP Morgan Chase, Goldman Sachs. This could amount to 200,000 jobs. Many people believe that new roles would develop for humans even as AI eliminate routine roles. It doesn't need software industries unsurprisingly front and center in this phase of change. Salesforce, for example, says it isn't hiring coders in 2025. It doesn't need because AI has driven huge productivity gains and customer focus has shifted to agent force and AI driven product. As AI makes coding easier, other software firms also believe that ant farm model will gradually go extinct. Rise of Black Twitter. On December 5, an argument about the authenticity of coronavirus, saying that for black people on the upcoming winter solstice during an extraordinary planet, a real DNA will be unlocked. Meredith D. Clark, a, a professor of race and political communication at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, uses this example to kick off her new book. We tried to tell you all Black Twitter and Rise of Digital Counter Narratives. She writes that Negro Solstice was a life affirming signal that black people were somehow surviving a second year of lockdowns with our human intact. It was undeniably one of the better chapters on late Twitter, yet few people outside the intended community knew what to make of it. One person Clark interviewed for her book described Black Twitter as a powerful parallel Twitter, and it is often felt that way, like being in a kitchen at a party and having a completely different and more interesting conversation than the main ongoing in the living room. Black Twitter's most lasting legacy, according to Clark, is pulling up a full scale revolution in how American news media reported on black people, which she correctly argued as direct correlation to how people perceive the value of black life and govern it. India's Air Force urgently needs more frontline combat aircraft. We must foster competition and attract private investment to get fighter jets needed for our defense. Indian Air Force is not only short of an adequate number of aircraft to protect our skies, but we will see its capabilities weaken over time unless corrective action is taken immediately. In my estimate, a significant proportion of IAF's fighter aircraft fleet is down due to shortage of Russian spares, and the spare rest are sparingly used to ensure that they don't fly into spares crunch. Thus, the effective strength of Air Force is much smaller than what publicly is available. Available numbers indicate. It also means young pilots get fewer hours of flying training in an age that we may see worse fought in air and space. India ignores IAF's problems at great peril. Speaking at a seminar in New Delhi few days ago, Air Chief Marshal AP Singh pointed out that 40 years after development started and 8 years after first planes were inducted, IAF is yet to receive all 40 of the indigenous Tejas fighters, although a further 180 has been ordered. Hindustan Aeronautics Limited track record and critical dependence on foreign suppliers for jet engines means that on current trends, it will be decades before an IAF sees these aircraft at its bases. By that time, they might be a lot less effective because the rest of the world, especially China, would be two generations ahead. Recently, I argued that India needs to raise defense expenditure to 4% of gross domestic product to secure itself and amid the current geopolitical turbulence. More resources must be pumped in across the spectrum from research, development, production, and procurement to organization and training. Yet, for additional defense rupee to work, the defense ecosystem need a thorough mental and structural overhaul. Why is India unable to produce competitive fighter aircraft when it has a successful automobile industry? First off, even before liberalization, Maruti has introduced a technological upgrade to the Indian manufacturing ecosystem. Subsequently, Tata Motors and Mahindra took their own routes to success. All had to compete with Hyundai, Toyota, Nissan, Ford, and other global players. Therein lies the answer. India is not only became self-sufficient but also competitive because domestic manufacturers were compelled to compete. Why is India unable to produce competitive fighter aircraft when it has successful automobile industry? The problem with HAL and other private sector defense companies is not so much government ownership but lack of competition. The bureaucratic planner's mindset of avoiding duplication of efforts has been counterproductive. Imagine that there are three companies licensed to make Tejas aircraft, each with assured order of 20 aircraft, but another 120 going to the one with faster delivery rate. We will have three production lines competing, one will win, the other will be forced to innovate to stay in business. It is likely that they will introduce new products that will push the country's capabilities forward. The combination of some global competition and unshackled domestic industry, a large domestic market, can work for defense manufacturing like it did for automobiles. This brings us to two controversial questions. One, should politically powerful domestic conglomerates be allowed in the defense industrial sector? Two, should foreign investment be permitted if the goal is to increase indigenous self sufficiency in defense? The answer to both questions is yes. HAL's inability to scale up production despite its best efforts indicates that among the missing ingredients is industrial organization and management that our public sector cannot easily acquire and may quickly lose. What India's big private conglomerates lack in innovation, they make up in their ability to execute projects. Allowing 100% FDI in defense is compatible with the goal of self-sufficiency and indigenization. Indeed, FDI is better route to climb the technological ladder than to seek technology transfers and offsets while buying foreign equipment. That's because technology transfers happen through human diffusion, not blueprints. This is how China did it. It developed high levels of technological, managerial, and process expertise by attracting FDI in various industries for over 4 decades. Chinese engineers, workers, and managers learned how to make advanced industrial products. This human capital enabled the Chinese defense industry to replicate Russian, European, US designs and then innovate and make on its own. Allowing 100% FDI in defense is compatible with the goal of self-sufficiency and indigenization. Indeed, FDI is better route to climb the technological than to seek technological transfers and offsets while buying foreign equipment. That because technology transfers happen through human diffusion, not blueprints. That is how China did it. It developed high levels of technological, managerial, and process expertise by attracting FDI in various industries over 4 decades. Chinese engineers, workers, and managers learned how to make advanced industrial products. This human capital enabled the Chinese defense industry to first replicate Russian, European, and US designs. Reforms will give hundreds of aircrafts in the future. If we want them now, there is no choice but to buy them off uh, the shelf from foreign manufacturers. This has its policy and downsides, but lots of planes with downsides is better than having few planes. The latter is all downside. The buy versus build dilemma will always exist, but it will be a lot easier to manage if there is more money for both. Tailpiece, our trade policies are overprotecting our automobile industry from competition in an electric vehicle market. It's a matter of concern. Quick Food Row, whose database is it anyway if the quick food platforms break competition rules, as restaurants allege, they should be hauled up. But data-driven innovation is welcome if it will flavor consumers and help the market evolve. India has become too rich to let petty clerks torment us. I learned the site of UIDAI has been partially down for months. Stagnant wages in fast emerging India, we need an enlightenment. We must raise not just output but also the quality of people's lives. This may require a paradigm shift in Indian thinking. India's economic growth story has been impressive. GDP is expanding, corporate profits are looking up, and country is asserting itself as a global economic powerhouse. But beneath our headline grabbing figures is lies a troubling reality: stagnant wages, hit biting inflation, insufficient jobs, and growing inequality. For millions of Indians, GDP growth has not translated to better livelihoods, creating a paradox of booming economy that fails to uplift a stagnant, significant portion of its population. Wage stagnation amid rising inflation. The disparity between India's economic growth and stagnant wages is stark. Consider the IT sector, once beacon of upward mobility. According to the Times of India, the salary of an entry-level software engineer has inched up from 3.2 lakh in 2011 to 3.75 lakh in 2024, barely keeping pace with inflation. Meanwhile, CEO compensation in the same sector has quadrupled over the same period. This trend is alarming, especially in industry that once championed egalitarian Chief Economic Advisor V. Anant Nageshwaram warns that low wages could stifle India's long-term potential by weakening consumer demand and quality of life for millions. The political economy will weigh heavily on the budget.